Welcome back to the Change Volition. That's a
Volition.
new word. I'm Melissa Katie, the Challenge Doctor. I'm obviously challenged right there. And I'm here with my co-host, Dr. Kevin Cuccaro, on the West Coast. Although that is a fabricated ocean. Which ocean is that?
How do you know that's fabricated?
Because between your bald head and your ear or headphones is an image that's not air.
This is what I wear to the beach. This is my beach attire.
So you have some kind of foam that sits there in between your headpiece and your bald head.
Yeah.
Is that what that is?
Yeah. Well, I'm not getting a notice. Are we live?
Yes.
I usually get a notice that says like that we're doing something.
Oh, I don't know if Zoom changed something where it doesn't do that to you, but
no, it's probably Facebook just to make it more difficult as usual, right?
I don't know. Usually the notices from me are Zoom, we're going live, and then it's funneled into Facebook. So I don't think it's a Facebook thing.
No, well, when we when we usually log on, I'll just refresh and then I can and then I'll like refresh it and it'll say, oh, there's a little notification that says, oh, the change position is streaming. And so then I can just do it directly to whatever. But now I wasn't getting a notice. So it's just trying to be difficult.
Well, I'm sure people don't want to hear about this technical stuff.
They do want to hear about it. That's what they're most interested in. Yes. Anyway, go ahead.
No, is there anything exciting over the last week or two since we kind of took a little brief break last weekend?
Well, there's exciting stuff, but now I have to go through Facebook and get it all out in there. Yeah. Now, what happened this year? So we missed last week. I was out of town, which I was presenting at the first Utah Pain Summit, which was pretty fun. Yeah, it was fun. I've been to Salt Lake, I don't know, 2 or 3 times. Never a long. They're always short visits, but I like Salt Lake. It's kind of it's really easy to get around. That's probably one of the reasons I like it the most. And the airport's the airport since the last time I've been there is like beautiful. I think the last time we were there was pre-pandemic and it wasn't a great airport. Now it's pretty nice. And then there's they have a light rail that goes directly from the airport straight downtown, which is super, super convenient. And stayed at the Hyatt Regency down there. It was fun. And I think the talk went well. And yeah, it was a fun little thing. It was fun. So that was my weekend. And then come back and here. So
okay. Very
cool. It was interesting because I flew out early Friday morning. Yeah, we have a little regional airport that's about an hour south of us, which I absolutely love. Like if I don't have to fly out of Portland, I love Portland too. Portland airport is really good. It's just a pain in the butt to drive 2 hours to get there.
Yeah.
But so we left really, really early on Friday, and then it just seemed like I was gone forever, even though I got back on Sunday. So it was like it was only like 4 days I was not doing stuff, but it felt like a week or 2 weeks. It was really weird. But yeah, fun.
What exactly did you present?
Pain. It's always pain, man.
Like stress, pain, your
my intro thing, I've probably done variants of that talk over, I don't know, 2, 3, maybe 400 times. I mean, it's a lot. And it's simply trying to get people to understand that how we think and treat pain is inconsistent with what the science of pain says. And then once you kind of really shift, if you can develop that mind shift and actually kind of think in sort of up-to-date pain science terms, all these failures that we have make a lot of sense. Like, why is it that the prevalence rate of chronic pain has not changed despite spending upwards of $600 billion a year on the treatment of pain, depending on what numbers you're looking at? And it just stays exactly the same. And it just drives me crazy. If you have something and you say you're treating it and it doesn't change ever, then you either don't know what you're treating or you're treating it the wrong way, or both. Yeah. So unfortunately, it's just really hard for people to kind of wrap that part out. And then, and there's no financial incentive for anybody to treat pain in the right way. It makes no financial sense at all. So anyway.
Yeah. Well, that's why I was surprised to hear that you went to a conference to present, because I know that this has been.
They invited me. Yeah, they had asked me to come, and so I did it. And then I'm only gonna. No, I have another talk next week, but I'll be doing that one virtually, and then I will be presenting in October for the Oregon Pain Summit. But I've slowed down a ton. I mean, I've slowed down a ton. And so I'm only I don't advertise, I don't solicit. I turned down another one. I was gonna that was supposed to be in June. I just turned that one down. I'm not I don't want to do it. So yeah.
I know that both of us have struggled with that moral sense of moral obligation to make a difference and our passion behind it. Yet there's no financial real gain from that. And not that we would do it only because of finances, but it's also the complexity of people having a hard time wrapping their head around it. And they just sometimes look at you like you're the crazy one.
Well, and this is relevant actually to the practice of medicine, period, is if there's no reason to kill yourself trying to save people if no one is wanting to be saved, right? It's like the whole thing, like, someone falls into the pool. If you jump in and you don't know how to swim and you don't have the skill set, you're not supposed to do that, because you are now at greater risk of harm. You could possibly die, and you can both die in the process of that. And if you are in a situation where maybe you are rescuing somebody, and then it becomes to the point where you are now at risk yourself, you need to stand back and reassess the situation. And that's really what it has come down to is it was taking a significant toll on me. And certainly a significant toll. I mean, my family didn't notice it, but I mean, it was taking some family toll, and it was just, you have to make a choice on what you're going to do next. And I will often introduce in a lot of my lectures the Ignaz Semmelweis. Most people from medical school, you learned about it with hygiene and washing your hands, because you had the first kind of studies on that. And the tragedy with Semmelweis, obviously, is he got so irate and so upset because they were killing all these pregnant women by not washing hands, and nobody was listening to him, that he literally drove himself crazy and died in an insane asylum. He wasn't crazy in the insane asylum. They involuntarily committed him because he kept saying that they were killing people, and then they beat him, and he developed sepsis and died. So if I was and then 20, 30 years later, they're like, oh, Semmelweis was a great guy, blah, you tried to do all this stuff. But then contrast with Oliver Wendell Holmes, who was also a physician and also published that we were doing obstetrics wrong and killing people. And he, instead of hand washing, was much more, because again, this is pre-germ theory, so they didn't know all this stuff. Mm-hmm. But he actually recommended they sterilize all instruments between cases, burn your clothes between patients. So he was doing the full hardcore scrub down thing.
Yeah.
And got in some big disagreements with some prominent obstetricians at the time, but very calmly just backed off and just kept saying, this is wrong, but he didn't kill himself. He was also his very prominent, wealthy family, and did all this stuff. And I think either his son or grandson was a Supreme Court justice. So kind of a North England kind of thing, or New England kind of thing. And he, the long story short is, he basically is I'm not going to fight this losing battle. I'm not going to compromise my values.
Right.
But I'm just going to say what I'm going to say, but I'm not going to kill myself because people are not willing to change.
Right.
And I know I've kind of thought about that quite a bit. I definitely, not to say, I mean, I'm nowhere near, obviously, a brilliant person like either Semmelweis or Oliver Wendell Holmes, but I'm not going to kill myself. I'm simply not going to do it.
Why would you say you're less than them?
Because I'm just some little dude out in the middle of nowhere, I don't. That's the imposter syndrome, right? Where we're like, oh, the people in the ivory tower know so much, and then you see what, and they're like, no, they just practice in the ivory tower. They don't really know anything more than really anybody, or less. But that's my little whatever you call it, imposter belief in there.
Yeah, well,
because it's not like I'm publishing papers or doing any of the stuff that people think, oh, you need 65 different publications. Whatever.
Yeah, and then people are pumping out stuff that's not good.
Junk. Oh my God. Yeah, that's a whole other topic. The junk publications.
Yeah, but it's so hard. Knowing That's, I think, the dilemma of the next 100 years is what's the truth, and what you just specified is how beliefs and truths get very confusing. People later thought Semmelweis was amazing and brilliant, yet he was,
totally vilified and involuntarily committed.
Yeah, like, look, are humans, look what we do to people, like the strength of beliefs and the cognitive dissonance of trying to understand this other concept that was way beyond their comprehension. It seemed like, witchcraft kind of stuff in a way.
Well, except for the fact people, unlike witchcraft, people survived when you did what he said and died when you didn't. Huh, that's a little weird, but
maybe we should step back.
Makes me feel bad. Oh, you're saying my hands are dirty like some common field laborer, and I'm a physician, so you're obviously wrong, even though my patients keep dying. What do I have to change? Oh, my behaviors and my beliefs to actually save my patients, or keep them and just kill people because it's easier for me to believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, just like, there still to this day exists, and I'll speak generally, that there, you hear patients who just undergo surgery and they have this belief that this is a cleaner body of water, I can get in it, than this other body, but they're all public.
Yeah.
And hence the increased odds of infection rates. So it's knowledge is power. Unfortunately, not everyone has the knowledge they need to really, or the willingness to question their beliefs, but that's for another topic.
Well, I didn't roll on onto it. I think there's a difference between data and no data.
Mm-hmm.
And we've talked a little bit about publication. We just talked about junk publications and things like that. But reality is, if there's data, trust the data versus the person.
Mm-hmm.
And I just get reminded of that because, again, I kind of ghost around these physician forums and see this stuff, and it's just fine if someone posts something and then they're like, that's not true, and why did you bring this up? This politics. And then finally, someone will put actual data, and then they still like, that's not true. I'm like, well, then you need to counter that data with your own data, because other than saying I just don't believe it's true is not a reason.
Right.
And I think that was I am like very, very grateful I went to medical school and I did my training and did all that stuff, despite medicine being what it is and all the things when it comes to particularly for pain. But the one thing it has made me do is I used to be very much like this intuitive, and if it felt right, and what my, go with your beliefs and go with your gut, all that kind of BS. And I am not that way anymore. Like I want to go with my gut, but I am so I'll say skeptical now that where most people will trust their gut and then potentially look at data, I will look at my gut and then look at the data and then revise appropriately from there, because guts are so wrong and our beliefs are so wrong that without some true, like, objective evidence, it is so easy to make bad decisions, and it's so easy to fall in this thing, well, that's not true, or my beliefs are right. And as physicians, we're supposed to do that, right? We're supposed to be looking at evidence, and we're supposed to be looking at data, and we're supposed to be making decisions on that. And the sad thing is most of us aren't. Most of us are trusting our guts and trusting what we're trained, and we ignore it. And I don't know, it's sad to see. I really wish if you just look at data, and granted, you can come to two different opinions on what the data may say, but you should both agree that the data is there, at least present. Like, if it's a 9, you're going to say it's a 6 or a 5 or a 4, then we have a big problem. And there's probably areas of that in this country that we're like that now. But in general, we should, if we can actually look at the data and agree what, the data pieces are, then we can at least have really honest and probably worthwhile discussions about what that actually means.
So I'm curious what you think, because I feel like family, friends, patients, whoever, I find that the power of what you're taught by your own mother is pretty hard to get them to change their beliefs about, when they're out in the cold with wet hair, or they're out in the cold and they're going to get sick. Unless you've seen data, I know that there's some increased odds of presence. People are indoors when it's cold and they can pass and transmit things, but people never talk about, when they say that, I'm like, you need a microbe. You need some kind of thing that infects you to get sick, like a virus. it's almost like they don't want to hear it. I'm like, so how is this possible? So I'm curious if there's data that I'm ignoring, Kevin, that I should believe that if I go outside with wet hair or just out in the cold, that I'm going to get a cold.
Well, I'm going to say I have not actually. The first thing I would do is I would start Googling, and I would go and I would do a PubMed search. I'm sure that they've done it, and I want to say that there have been some studies, because what I think it really comes down to is, and this is just me, like, again, this is not necessarily factual, but this is hypothesis here. But I think I remember reading something about or thinking about this in the way of a stressor. And if you, instead of actually being cold making you sick, it may actually compromise you because there's an extra effort on keeping your body warm that your immune function may decrease. But now you go look it up. So
right. And so that's the question. Is it correlation and not causation by, the nature?
Oh, yeah. But your nature, there has to be something. If the virus isn't there or there isn't something on your skin, or there's not something. I mean, we're always being inundated by things that are trying to attack us. I mean, that's another, bodies are super cool. And we got all this stuff like skin to keep things up. And we got this pit of fire in our stomach that keeps stuff, it burns them up when they come through the mouth, and, one-way valves. So things aren't supposed to creep in different directions. And the body is awesome, but it's designed like this super fortress thing. But, you compromise it and things happen.
Absolutely. Well, we just jumped in, just started talking about random stuff, but Saturday Salutations, if you're curious what the heck you're watching, especially if you're on my Challenge Doctor site, this is the Change Physician. And we do these Saturday Salutations for Kevin and I to say hi, but to share what's been going on in the podcast. So I should probably just allude to what's happened in the last couple weeks here, since we've had 2 Thursday throwbacks, which are replays from our very first 100 or so of our episodes, especially with interviews with others. Let's see, we are now at the 27th. So Kevin and I did an episode on the 14th of May, episode 249, Life Lessons from 1,000 Years, taken from Sahil Bloom. He has his own newsletter and website. And then we did 2 Thursday throwbacks. We took a little hiatus this past Sunday, but we had Dr. Michael Hochman on Slow Medicine, Healthy Skeptic MD, that we replayed. And then Nithya Natarajan, I cannot remember how to say, I think I said that right. She's a family medicine physician who's got into lactation counseling. So a really unique interplay of her own experiences and wanting to help others. Any comments about any of those, Kevin?
Not too much. I mean, the slow medicine was kind of an interesting thing, because that's another thing that doesn't get a lot of traction, even though it makes a lot of sense. That's basically the idea, is instead of looking to intervene, you really look and then think if something is appropriate versus the opposite. Right. Which is really, I mean, people, my doctor didn't do anything, but that's probably a good thing. Like, honestly. Yeah, you want to go to the person who's not going to do anything on you, rather the person who's going to be, every time you walk in, you get a new pill prescribed or a new procedure recommended or whatever. And some people want that, but it's not good medicine. Anyway, so that was a good conversation. And then lactation was kind of interesting, because there's so much of these things that are biological and we've sort of medicalized over the time. I mean, I think there was a long period of time, not recently, where doctors were not recommending breastfeeding. I mean, it was 40 years ago, 50 years ago. It's
crazy.
That's freaking nuts. Yeah. I mean,
look how we've survived for eons.
Like, oh my God, where do we, and we do this though. I mean, some new thing comes up and then they make up this nonsense. I was actually just talking about this with my family about things like this whole idea of flat feet and a lot of these structural, and this comes into the pain thing, right? People will have a pain and then they want to do this biomechanical belief about that it is a causative factor, right? And we've actually talked about pain in previous ones, but it's not just one. There's a bunch of things that go together to construct an experience, just like, love doesn't ooze out of your heart. And it's the reason why that if you have a heart transplant, you still love your spouse and you don't all of a sudden love somebody else. I mean, seriously, right? It's insane. But we've been walking on our feet for millennia.
Yeah.
and then suddenly we don't know anything about like all these natural variations and arches are pathological. I mean, come on. I mean, whatever. If you break your foot and maybe you have a traumatic fracture and now you have suddenly altered anatomy, that's one thing. Yeah. But a natural variant that is come on. And because I had looked up stuff on this once about like the advent of all this arch stuff, and I don't think foot problems have decreased in the slightest. And I would argue, probably because we have more surgeons, is that we probably have more foot and ankle surgery now than ever before. And I'm sure that we haven't impacted anything when it comes to foot and ankle pain, at least the persistent stuff that's not like you just broke your foot. But man, it's so easy to pathologize things, particularly if we have something else that's going to pay to pathologize that variant.
That's a rough word right there.
It is a rough word. It's one of many rough words that I've struggled with, Oh
my God. I'm actually thinking of sharing something.
No. Don't overshare. We don't want to overshare.
No oversharing.
Please do.
Let's see here. I'm going to show you some cool thing here. First, I'm going to share. I actually had, and I'm not like a big flower girl, like in the essence or the sense of like I have to have flowers. It's just it is cool to have a lot of color pop in the garden or the yard and make it look nice. But I tend to go for like functional, like edible stuff. I don't know, just probably my pragmatic side of me.
Edible food?
Or edible plants, I should say.
Edible food.
Did I say edible food?
No, I did. But that was pretty dumb. Edible
I was like,
food
well, there
versus
is
non-edible food. Yeah.
There is some food that's probably not great for you. Let me share my screen. So do you know what this is? I had a friend tell me what they are because it's the first time since I've been in this home for over 10 years.
Those look like lilacs.
So apparently I think they're gladiolas.
Okay. I wouldn't, don't trust me on, I wonder if they're related to lilacs though. Because the lilacs typically are at the end of the sprout, but they have a very similar flower structure to that. Gladiolas.
Here's the close up.
Can you eat them? Those are very pretty. I actually think those are prettier than iris.
Yeah, they're complementary colors too, purple and yellow.
Where do those only grow in hot, horrible places like where you are, or does those grow in nice places with water?
Let's see, gladiolus growing region. I will tell you what it is. I don't know exactly what your region is, but standard. They're hardy in zones 8 to 10. Can be grown in annuals in zones 7 and colder. The hardy ones are a little bit smaller. Anyway, if you have them in zones 5 and 8,
we're zone 8B.
They're well munched. Munched.
Where well munched. Well munched.
Someone might be able to speak today. I'm like looking at the word and reading something else, and I think I'm mixing the words. What were you saying, Kevin?
We're zone 8B.
Yeah, we're 8B.
You are too?
Yeah. Which is really strange.
That's really weird.
But it probably depends on the way the season each year, because I feel like it changes. But here is this one is coming back from last year. It's not fully opened up, but this is let's see if you can figure out that one.
Well, this is what name your
identify
plant.
The
name this plant. That is the fuchsia hued star plant, native to Southeast Asia.
So it's a cone flower.
Oh, I was close.
Which is also called echinacea.
Oh, echinacea.
Yeah. So I have several of these. I probably have like 4, 5.
It's the stuff you make the tea for when you go outside with your head cold or with your head
Speaking of colds, yeah. So I actually have tons of seeds. I'm actually going to go ahead and plant a whole bunch of these. May just throw some out this year and see what happens. But usually I'll start them inside in the sunroom, but we'll see how hardy they are. But they come back and they'll definitely die down during the winter, and then they'll come back pretty robustly, I think.
How's your loquat doing?
So those died off because they had too much stress and lots of freezes and stuff. But I didn't mulch them out great. and I
Sad.
failed them. However, I bought 2 loquats from our grocery store. If they can survive the grocery store environment, not to say that they're doing a bad job, but they're literally around the corner, and
It's
the
a
price
little
is
tougher.
it's
When
a
they
little hardier.
plants that come out of the grocery store, like, they're all muscular and they got like leather tattoos, and
Yeah.
they're survivors. You probably got
Yeah.
the little hardy ones.
Yeah.
The first loquats that you bought were, probably, a little tiny neat, and they were probably very polite in your yard, and they got ganged up on.
Well, one of them, was a native. It somehow probably a squirrel emitted the seed somewhere, and it grew right next to a huge cedar and wasn't going to really thrive there in the shade. So I decided to cut it out, and I ripped some of the roots because it was sprawling everywhere. Planted it, and it survived. And then the bad freezes and winters happened twice. It survived the first one. Anyway, it did pretty well considering I demolished it. But I did get 2, and I just planted those a couple weeks ago. So, and I've got bubblers right there, so it'll hopefully be getting consistent watering from me. But here is my last share. And can you see that?
Oh, those are your owls. Those are the owlets. Oh, look at those little. Oh,
yeah, here it comes again. Little 10-second thing.
That's the mom.
Yeah, mom or dad, I guess. But they left the nest a few days ago.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm going to make a little trailer of all the best bits and pieces of photos and videos I got. But that's a wildlife camera. For those of you, you can easily find one on Amazon, and it's a solar powered one. It wasn't that expensive, and you solar powered and battery backup. So
do you stream it from your phone or something? Or
no, I didn't get I didn't go for the more expensive ones that do that. I just put it on the opposite trunk and faced it towards it, and strapped it onto the trunk, and just pulled it down every day and put it back up after I downloaded some stuff. So it's actually pretty easy. I'm probably going to use it near the bird feeder and other stuff just for fun. Those are pretty cool. The little red lights turn on when it senses motion, so it's not really that bright. So they didn't seem to mind it too much. But yeah.
So motion controlled, so it isn't on all the time.
Exactly.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. That's what they do with a lot of the wildlife kind of camera stuff. But
I keep thinking about just having cameras, like external cameras. Not like we live in Corvallis. Corvallis doesn't have lots of anything, but anything that make your house less of a thing. We're usually here all the time, but I don't know.
It's a little bit of a deterrent. Yeah,
I think it is. Yeah, and when the police did their thingy last fall, they came by with, meet the police. Then they talked about stuff like, because that's the one crime I guess we have is property crime, and make your house don't look like a target. So make sure that the doors are locked, and if you have cameras and things are well lit, then people don't target your home.
Yeah, it's kind of like when you walk out of a grocery store and you go into your car, you need to look like the woman that's really looking, paying attention with a sense of purpose and hypervigilance. To me, it's no different than having your house look like it's on the lookout.
Yep. Totally agree.
It's no different, but
totally agree.
I'm kind of a freak about that. Like I have multiple ways to let people know that they're getting watched.
In your house.
So
you got your screech owls. You're like, rah! You got tax screech owls you've been training.
You don't know how you're going to be watched. I have quite a few methods. What was the other thing I was going to say? I don't think that's going to get any better. Honestly, I feel like from an economy standpoint, I could be totally wrong, but I feel like people are, even in our neighborhood, like one person had their car stolen. This is like, a decent neighborhood. People had stolen stuff out of their car, but actually car stolen, like the audacity of people to do this stuff. My husband, we
have a stressed society.
Yes.
And the factors that are involved with this kind of growing inequities that we have are not going away. Actually, I was just talking to my wife about this earlier too, is the fact that We have no meaningful action. And I don't think there's no political will to do it. And I think modern society doesn't understand trauma, doesn't understand trauma, and believes, like homelessness is because people just want to be homeless and they just like doing drugs versus,
no, they're trying to cope
and yeah, so it's not. And so I agree. I mean, it's sad, but you kind of have to start becoming more aware, because I do think there's a possibility. I have a family member, this just absolutely kills me. For 40 years, and they've done very, very well for themselves, and they're like, oh, you need to live in a gated community basically to keep the riffraff out. And they've been saying this for 40 years because the only way you're safe is in a gated community, right? Because otherwise, which is kind of funny, because this gated community that they live in had been burglarized multiple times by the kids that lived in the gated community. But it's like, okay, well, if you see that society is going in such a way that that's your answer, then maybe you should start looking into how we could stop that, because there's a lot of communities in this world that you don't have to live in gated communities like a third world nation. But no, they're keep doing it. Just keep doing it. Like, it's the way to do it is, keep voting in the same way, and eventually you get what you want, right? You're going to be in a place where you may have to live in a gated community. Like, I don't hope it ever gets to that point for the majority, but it's not going to get any better anytime soon.
Well, anyway. As they say, sometimes like the middle class is getting smaller. There's just huge discrepancies from top to bottom.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But yeah. So people, take care of yourself. And recognize that we get micro traumas every day, and that they're impacting our overall well-being, and we got to look out for each other and be kind. And I don't know what other kind of words of wisdom other than I used to kind of laugh when people said we just need to love on each other, and I thought it was so oversimplified. But I start thinking about it, I'm like, yeah, we just need to stop being so damn greedy and like look out for each other. And not that I'm 100% great at that. We can very easily get in our selfish worlds, but if you're going to be isolating yourself, like, just be good to each other, realize we all have our struggles, and try not to overjudge people, and you don't know their story and the walk they've had to go through. And the moment you think they're doing something for a certain reason, you're probably wrong. Or you might be right, but still, like, we all have our struggles. But anything you'd like to add to that, Kevin, before you take us out?
No, I would just totally agree. I think, what is it? Be excellent to each other, right? That's Bill and Ted.
No, yeah.
Excellent,
dude.
There was two of them, right? What was there? And party on, dude. That's really, yeah. Be excellent to each other and party on, dude. Right. It's kind of the way. And yeah. Give people safe communities, and safe communities create safe individuals, and safe individuals are stable individuals, and stable individuals are good societal members. And if we're not willing to do that, when we have unsafe communities,
we're going to do this.
We're going to end up in a very unsafe nation. So
yeah.
Anyway, so for everybody out there, this is a Saturday Salutations. It was a little bit more than just a simple Saturday Salutations, but of course it's Memorial Day's weekend, so we had to talk more. I'm going to go back to enjoying my island extravaganza that Melissa doesn't believe, that I'm sitting here on the South Seas Island, with my little satellite thing. Yeah, I do. As always, you can join us on most Saturdays or Sundays, generally Saturdays, here on Facebook for Facebook Live, or you can catch the channel on YouTube at The Change Physician, and you can also join the community at thechangephysician.com. And until next time, stay well.
Take care.